Hello, everybody. It's Benjamin back. I'm I'm working on the name right now. Um, I'm here to do a tutorial on the Bambu Lab slicing software. I've done a little bit of Cura. I've done Ultimaker Cura. I've done Prusa slicing, and I've also done this Bambu Lab slicing. Most of the Ultimaker Cura, well, all of the Ultimaker Cura and Prusa slicing software, I'm familiar with my Ender 3. I don't have the V2 version, so I've got the base one from 7 years ago when I bought it in college. I've still been using it and it still works great. But here recently I bought an A1. I've also had an A1 Mini. I've got an AMS Lite. I've been testing out a lot of different things. So I've done a lot of neat things on there, and I've started doing a lot of printing at work. So I'd like to go ahead and do a couple tutorial videos on some of the slicing software. So this right here is the website where you can download the Bambu Studios software. It's got the Windows version, and it's also got a Mac version here. So I went ahead and downloaded the Windows version here. So as you go in here, you're going to wind up having a screen like this. You're going to have making a profile, so you're going to want to set up your Bambu Lab profile. A lot of things are integrated into this, so it's way easier to use, and what I've had previously. But you go in here, you log in. Once you're logged in, it's gonna ask you what type of printer. You can use other printers on this. It doesn't have to be Bambu Lab printers. So don't worry if you don't have a Bambu Lab printer, you can still use the slicing software. I prefer to use Prusa over Bambu Lab software though. Unfortunately, Prusa doesn't support the Bambu Lab printer, so if you get a Bambu Lab printer, it's a lot easier to use, but you're stuck with using the Bambu Lab slicing software. It's kind of the ups and downs of the printing world. That's kind of how it goes. You can still go ahead and download other STL files from different programs. You don't have to use the Bambu Lab slicing. You don't have to use the Bambu Labs STL files here from this list. You can also go search on things like uh, Thingiverse and other websites like that have their own STL files here. You've got a lot of online models just right here, and they're already set up and sliced correctly. They've got all the parameters set up, so it's a lot easier to download files from here and just print directly to your Bambu Lab printer. It makes life a whole lot easier to just be able to say, I've got this printer, and just download it right then and there. But for today, we're just going to go through setting up. You've got your setup of a new printer. You're going to have, once you go through that entire list there, you're going to go ahead and have this open. This is the basic version of the slicing software. I'm going to go ahead and open up this Benchy. You can find and add parts here, your STL files that you have downloaded. You can find them and you can add them here. Go to your file directory and import them. Once you've done that, you've got an add plate function here, which just adds an extra plate so you can have multiple plates and be able to do a bunch of slicing on all of the different features so you can get all in one. It allows you to be able to post a little easier to the online models on the Bambu Lab app, so it makes it a little easier for that as well, and easier to see things as they're printing too. So there's a couple of features here. You've got your auto orient. When you click that, it's going to give you all the different faces, or when you click the auto orient, it's going to orient it to where the most flat surface is from what I'm aware of. It just straps it right down. Sometimes it takes longer when there's bigger files in here. I typically don't use the auto orient. I prefer to use this lay on face feature. It allows you to pick what surface you want to lay onto. So I would click what it's already at, so it doesn't really matter at this point. You've got split objects, you've got split to parts, you've got variable layer heights. Variable layer heights, you can choose your your 3D printer will do one layer at a time from the bottom to the top. This will allow you to adjust how thick those layer lines are. So when you get done with your print, the smaller layer lines you have, the less you're going to see. The smaller your layer line is, the less you're going to see divots and other other areas that are deformed on the outside of the print. So you can't get a super micron finish on any of these printers, on the FDM printers at least. You can on some of the other printers, but for FDM printers, typically 0.16 is a great number to have. I've done 0.12 on the A1 Mini. It works just fine, but the layer lines are still there. You're never really going to get away from that unless you do a lot of post-op processing. I don't typically worry about it too much unless I have supports. Supports sometimes make it a little worse on that. So then you've got your move function, so you move it in the world coordinates here. You just click and drag with these arrows, or you can go in and change these numbers here. You've got your rotation on world coordinates, so you can rotate it around the axes and rotate your part. You've also got your scale, so you can change the scale. It's set to uniform scale, so as you go it'll do that, but you can also elongate it here. You can get out of this uniform scale and just elongate it by clicking and holding. You've got lay on face like I just showed you. You also have a cut where you can turn it into two separate entities, and you can perform a cut and it'll make it into two sections and it'll have one next to it. You can change these a little bit, so you can take the cut out and just have the bottom or the top left behind. You can do a couple other things with it. You've got mesh boolean. I don't typically use this. I do a little bit of supports painting, but not much. I typically just use regular supports and just auto generated. Sometimes I'll do support painting if there's a specific use for it. You've got seam painting. I've never really used that, but more artistic things you'll probably want to use the seam painting so that you can hide it a little better on the inside. If you don't, you'll have a weird line going up your print in some areas, and sometimes there won't be. You've also got your text shape. This will actually emboss it, so you can input a text. Typically when you do text, you'll want to definitely make them as big as you can. When you go small on text, your printer just sometimes can't hold up to that. It's too tiny to have 2 or 3 walls on it, so it just won't be able to print it and it'll just pop right off. So you want to be careful with this text shape. You'll want to make sure it's as big as you can make it. You've got color painting for your AMS, so if you have an AMS light or an AMS for your printer, you can go ahead and use this color painting and you can change the different colors. There's a lot of different features when you go into color painting. You can do different fills, or you can just use a paintbrush and paint it on yourself. You've also got a measure tool, so you can measure your Benchy or any other projects you're doing. You've got an assemble, so you can mesh two surfaces together. If you've got two different parts, you can just mesh them together and assemble them. There's a new brim ears tool here. This brim ears tool allows you to print all the corners will have ears printed, so you'll be able to have a better stick to your bed. That's pretty much all it does. You have an assembly view. Don't typically use much of those. When you come back over here, you've got whatever printers you have. When you switch a nozzle out, you'll definitely have to update what printer you have depending on your nozzle and your printer. So I've got an A1 and I've also got my A1 Mini, but my A1's ready to print, so I'm going to go ahead and keep that. I've got a 0.4 millimeter nozzle in it, so I'll keep that there. You've got a couple different plate options for this printer, so I like to use the textured PEI plate, but the smooth PEI plate I also really enjoy using that a couple times. But I don't like to use that and possibly damage it from certain things. I've damaged one at work, and I've been using the textured PEI plates for projects that don't necessarily need the smooth finish on the bottom. So I like to use the textured PEI plate. I've got 4 different filaments in my AMS light. They're not the correct colors from what my printer actually is. You can actually just go ahead and change these. You can also change what filament you have. You can see my AMS is logged with different colors on here, but I'm going to go ahead and just use this Bambu PLA Basic. I stick to, typically I use Elegoo, PLA Plus, or different things like that, but that's typically what I'm doing. You've got your quality here. I like to keep it a high quality at 0.16 millimeters here. I don't like to go much lower than that. I've done 0.12, but it doesn't make much of a difference. If I'm really trying to get things done, I can go to 0.24, but then you're going to see a lot more defects on your walls and things like that. I don't typically do 0.28. I try to stay clear of that. When you go here, you can set your layer height manually as well. You've also got the variable option. There's also a strength feature here. Typically, I don't do much in the strength feature except I change what my sparse infill pattern is here. I like to do rectilinear, and I like to be at least 20%. You can go less than that and save some filament, but I like to be a little more durable, so I stay in the range of like 25 to 40%. I'm going to go ahead and do supports, and I'll do tree and auto supports, so it'll do tree supports, and then I'm going to go ahead and do on build plate only, so it'll go ahead and just do on the build plate. It won't do anything in the boat, so it won't be hard to get things out. So that's where I'm at with that. I don't typically do much with the others on here so far, but this is kind of the parameters I'm using for this Benchy to start out on. We're going to go ahead and slice this. So it's going to go ahead and go to this preview tab. It's going to go ahead and generate this. You can see what it looks like. It's only going to do tree supports, which is going to come out. It's going to look, you're going to easily be able to dismantle the tree supports, which is really a great option here. You're still going to have some post-op things that you got to get rid of. A lot of times the tree supports will leave like teeth marks on there. You can see it'll tell you all of these percentages and lines and whatnot. You'll also have the total filament it's going to take for your model. It'll have the prep time, your model print time, the total amount of time it's going to take, 1 hour and 32 minutes. It normally is the right time, unless you're wanting to make a video and do a couple video options on here. You can do a time lapse. If you do a time lapse, it takes a little bit longer. It kind of tells you that though. So when you go, you can go ahead and print plate, and then you would go to what printer you're using. I call my A1 Ben's Big Boy, so that's what I call it. So that's the one. I can go ahead and select the bed leveling time lapse. I leave all these checked every time. I don't always do the time lapse, and then you would hit send. And once it's sent, it goes directly to the Bambu Lab printers, and it takes it away, and the printer downloads the file and goes and prints it. I don't have to be anywhere except have a Wi-Fi connection for the printer and my computer to be on. I can actually get my printer to work from work. I can get prints from work on my computer to work sometimes. It doesn't always happen. I've been able to do both vice versa. I've had people take prints off on night shift and be able to print stuff for work as well. I've done a little bit of both of those. So it's a great feature the Bambu Lab has. But that's about all I have for today. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you later. Hello everybody, it's Benjamin back.